What's up, y'all? It's Tim Bevins. Today, I'm going to talk about line work and confident blacks. And this is more of like me trying to figure out the idea, and I'd figure I'd take y'all along on the journey. All right. So, first thing, we're just going to look at my art and see where I'm at. So, we're on my website. This is my portfolio. And you can see pretty much everything I use line work. Right, this right here has some strong blacks. Let's see. I don't think any of these have like super strong blacks. Not really. If we go to my Instagram, you see I definitely do a lot of line work based things, and I'm always trying to experiment with strong blacks. Right, like this. I don't want the video. Right, like this, right here on the leg, the arm. And I feel like I need to better understand this concept right here. Pretty strong, but it doesn't quite make sense, right? So that's what I'm doing this for. We're going to look at the pros and see what they be doing. And let's see if I can figure it out just a little bit, right? So I've made this sheet right here. There's a bunch of different artists on here. We'll talk about them all. I'll just name drop everybody real quick. These two. He goes by Jock. I don't know what his real name is, but I got his book right here. I took the dust jacket off mine because I hate dust jackets. I hate them with a passion. But his name's Jock. And of course, you guys should probably know this artist right next to him. It's Mike Magnola. Got one of his books right here. This book's cool because you can see how he blocks in his blacks and how he thinks about it. Because it's all pencil, but you can see the shading is how he gets his ideas, how he sketches out where all the blacks would be. So that's pretty cool to have, to try to figure this out, right? It's pretty dope. Jim Lee. I try to pull from books that I already have. That way I don't have to like print it out to look at it, to keep it on hand. The only thing I will have to print out is Kim Jung Gi's work, which is next. But Jim Lee, again, I took the dust jacket off because I hate them. They get on my nerves. But this is Kim Jung Gi. You guys probably should know who that is. A legend, passed a couple years ago. I wouldn't say he uses super strong blacks, but I brought him for reasons we'll talk about later. These three little comic strips are from a new book to me, but not a new comic book series at all, called Black Science. The penciler and inker is Matteo Scalera, and then the colorist is Dean White. There's a lot of good examples for what I'm talking about here. Gorillas, Brahm Revel. He writes, inks, and if he does colors pretty much everything he works on. So he's an auteur, as they call it. Okay. Really cool book. If you don't really like war stories, not really for you. I didn't really like war stories, but I thought this book was pretty cool, so I took some stills from there. This last one is from The Last Ronin. There's a lot of people's names on here, so I don't know who actually is the penciler, which I guess is a mistake on my part. But there's 4 names for the pencils and inks, so I don't know. I'm sorry. You can shame me in the comments if you want. I'm sorry. I tried to do my best. Alright, so what I'm talking about, right? We're going to focus. I'm talking about strong contrast. Okay, this image is a little blurry. Download it from the internet. So, you know, sometimes it's low quality, which is it should be, because AI be scalping everything at this point. But let me get to my ink, right? Like this. Oh, hold on. Let me get a new layer real quick. Let me put a new layer up here on top. Right, like this whole section right here. Right. Of course, I'm tracing it badly. I'm using my mouse. But you see that right under the arm. Right, and it makes these pop out. It's almost like using negative space to pop out an object. Right, where's a good example of that? I mean, I guess this is right here. Whatever this thingy is coming off of his belt. Right. Of course, he did some line work inside. Perhaps the best example is this circle. Right, there's no line work on the inside. That's using the negative space of that black to make the shape appear. We're going to delete all that. See, okay, still good. All right, so basically what I'm trying to figure out is the why. Why do they do this? How do they understand what they're doing? All right, these are all pretty much masters, right? Perhaps Brahm is a little young in his career to be considered as great as these guys. But he's doing similar things, right? Look at this. Look at how he cuts this area out, right? This whole thing. Just being strong, confident, leaving some hatch marks, right? Let's see, I'll make it a little thinner. All right, leaving some of these hatch marks right here. That helps break up this whole black space, right? You can see what he left this whole area pretty empty, but left some hatch marks once we get closer to this arm, and once we get a little bit up here, and then what fades out, pretty much using like hatching. It's kind of, I'd consider it hatching. I don't know, what would you guys consider this? It's hatching to me. He does it over here too. All right, so making the shapes bold, right? So that's one thing, right? Let's put that down right here. Bold shapes. Oh God, why are you like this? Why are you like this? It always wants to use that text, and it's frustrating to me because I like never use that text. Let's use Comic Sans, whatever. Comic Sans, bold shapes. All right, so that's one thing I'm getting from these guys, right? And you can see it everywhere. I don't want another text go away. You can see it everywhere, right? Like here. This is Matteo Scalera, right? This is pretty much just a silhouette, y'all, with a little bit of a rim light. Some textural marks just to help us understand what this guy feels like. But he didn't have to really show too much, which is really cool. I like that. Of course, this is using strong blacks like this is very, you sacrifice some things, right? You sacrifice a lot of detail, right? Like he could have did some like Frank Frazetta, like really pull out these abs and make them look all beefy. But for the mood, the drama, Matteo just blacked it all in. All right. What, this shape right here is interesting. Is that how the deltoid wraps? I don't know, but it looks cool. Right, it makes it feel angular in a way. Adds to that angular that's up here. Okay, so that's repetition of shapes. That's not necessarily what we're looking at here today. If you hear my kid in the background, he's 3. I can't control him. So he's going to be loud. You're just going to have to put up with it. Sorry. I love him. His name is Lucas. Oh God, the resolution of this is crazy. But even here, you can see it's solid black, feathering. Right, this is a round, cylindrical kind of spherical shape, right? Like, it's something like that, right? Of course, this is poorly drawn. I'm using a mouse. Sorry. If I use my pen, I gotta get closer, and the camera doesn't pick me up very well that close. So I have to use my mouse. It's okay. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, cylindrical form. So for he feathered for the cylindrical form right here. Right, and you can see that here with this beer belly looking thing he did for this fish guy. If you haven't read Black Science, it's pretty fire. I've only read the first issue so far. Or the first volume, I should say. I just actually finished it today. Pretty cool. Alright, let's get to Jim Lee right here. Right now I'm thinking of how is he approaching more rounded edges, right? You can see some feathering up in this area, right? He's got this dark black shape and then feathering. Why am I calling it feathering now? I don't know. It's feathering, hatching. It's doing it, right? Like right here on Brahms. Let's look at this. I haven't shown you any love. Okay, so he's doing some feathering here. Or should I say they? I don't know. Their gender, I should say they. But that's feathering, right? It's more blocky feathering. That's more of their style choice, whatever way they're choosing to ink it. But it is that softening of this hard black edge, right? Let's look at the goat of using dark shadows. I'd say he's the goat, right? Like, Mike is definitely known for these shadows. So okay, so here no feathering, but it's coming to points, right? He's not making the edge kind of like a super straight jagged edge. I mean, I guess it's kind of jagged with how it looks, but what I'm trying to say is it's not solid like that, right? It's not solid like that shape. So maybe that's how he has decided to do his feathering, right? Is kind of bring out the shape into a smaller shape. Alright, because like what is the purpose of this line? I don't know. Right, like if we look back, you could say it's kind of following the collarbone to a degree. I'm not like critiquing the work. I'm trying to understand what that shape is doing. Is it just for the softening of breaking up that hard line? It feels like it's for the collarbone, right? Well, you can see it more here, right? Okay, so the way he does it is kind of all about, oh, there's some feathering right there, right? Feathering on the round area, right? There's not much there. Maybe if this was a higher quality image, I'd be able to tell because there's little dots there. Perhaps that's feathering or that's just some artifacting. I don't know. It's a little hard to tell. Let's look at Jock. I'm not showing him any love. Jock is I call him experimental abstract in a way. He's done a lot of comics, a lot of posters, stuff like that. I feel like nobody ever talks about him. He's like underrated to a degree, but he'll do a lot of this just bold mark making, right? Like look at this squiggle, y'all. Like what? Squiggle? And this is a Judge Dredd cover. dude's throwing squiggles on there and making it look sick. That's a skill, right? Look, squiggles right here. Right, I feel like he'll use it to largely. See, this is, hold on. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to edit this, so it's going to be a little all over the place. I'm sorry. I don't like editing. It's what stops me from making long form videos all the time. But before we move on, feathering of round shapes and breaking up, I'll just call it long lines, right? That idea of like what Mike's doing, right? Breaking up those long lines, not having them all be stark and just kind of like, I don't know, long lines. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Go away. If you guys know Clip Studio, please tell me how to fix this. It always starts on that text of snap ITC, and I don't know why. And it's frustrating. Very, very frustrating. All right, so we're going to go look back at Jock's work here. Stop, go away. All right, we're going to go back here and look at kind of how he uses all these abstract mark makings to create, you know, this is Judge Dredd, right? I'm not tripping. I don't know him very well. The only reason, of course, you know the name because it's a pretty big IP to a degree, but I only really know it from my Art of Jock book. So I'm pretty sure this is him. This red mask feels like him. Could be wrong though. All right, so I feel like a lot of these mark makings are kind of to do this of like all this strong black, but to do it in his own way, I guess you could say. Right, of course he's using strong black here, but since this whole image is almost dominated by black down here, right? All that's black. I'm assuming he wanted it to feel more like cross hatching or hatching in a way, but just the abstract, more focus on mark making, I guess is a better way to put it, right? Using, if this is traditional, I'd say these lines are either a micron-esque line, perhaps a fountain pen, and these could either be like a chisel brush or more of a worn down brush pen. Only reason I say like worn down is because look at how that is. It could also, it's probably digital to a degree as well. But he's using a lot of tools, right? A whole lot of tools. Okay, so let's see if we can look at that breaking up of the areas of detail in somebody else, right? Let's look at Mateo. Oh, it's so blurry. I scanned this too. I'm thinking it's blurry because I sized it a couple times. Right, Mateo doesn't really have it in this. I know he has it in some of the other scenes, right? I mean, like up here, right? This is all nonsense. Beautiful, wonderful nonsense that looks like detail that would be on a ceiling. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Sometimes abstract marks, if they're placed in an area like this, they could just appear like that. See, Brahm doesn't really get super mark makey abstract. I'd say Brahm right? Like, I'm calling him a younger artist. He's definitely not. He's been around for a while. He's done some like Ninja Turtle stuff, of course, his own book. But he's new to me, I guess you could say. This area is interesting, right? Again, it's feathering, leaving areas not completely black. Right. So, we haven't talked about Kim Jung Gi in a minute. Let's look at him. Right. I don't know if I'm allowed to show boobs on YouTube, so I guess we'll figure that out. I may have to cut this part out, unfortunately. I don't know. We'll see. We'll look at this one. So, like, Kim does a lot of abstract mark making, right? Like right here in this belt pants region, right? I know he'll make the mark and then rub it with his finger, and that's kind of how you can get these smudgy looking marks, right? So he'll do that. He doesn't use like pure black as like somebody, like Mike would right here. Of course he did for some areas, but it's all, for him, it's kind of these smudgy marks. And that's why I wanted to bring him in to this, right? It's smudgy marks that could be used. Like you could use it in this way, right? Get it right up here, and then, I think if I use a soft brush, I could kind of mimic the smudginess, right? We smudge it out a little, right? And that'd be similar to how Kim is doing it. I work a lot in brush pens, so of course I've looked at Kim Jung Gi quite a bit. Alright, so I'm still trying to figure out, right? So we got bold shapes, feathering of round shapes, and I spelled that wrong, but breaking long lines. Let's get another abstract mark making in specific areas. Right, that kind of sounds a little vague, and I guess I did write it kind of vague. How would that be better? I don't know, because I'm thinking a lot of this Jock right here, right? I'm not for sure what this is for. Let me see, am I on a layer that I can draw? Right, I'm not for sure what this is for, but it looks like a poster. But this is kind of what I was talking about, and I was saying painting with negative shapes, right? I'm sure you've heard a lot of much better to art learning places talk about it, but this is a good example of it, right? He probably, I would say most definitely penciled this, but then just kind of cut it out with this black, right? With all this black. And it gives it that look of, it feels like he's emerging from the darkness. So we should probably say that, right? Let's get a text box. I would like to create another box, please. Let's say, painting with negative space. Of course I called it painting and we're talking about inking here, but you get it. I'm probably going to have to make this canvas a little bit bigger. Alright, so let's see here. Does this all make some sense, right? Bold shapes, feathering of round shapes, and breaking long lines, abstract mark making in specific areas, painting with negative space. Of course, I didn't talk too much about the rest of the line work, right? We could talk about that a little bit. I don't want this video to go too much longer. My clock, I got about 4 minutes left, so we're going to speed run this a little bit, all right? Because again, I don't want to do no editing. No editing. Not today. Whoa. All right, so if we look at Mike's work right here, of course he uses these bold, black, strong shadows, and the rest of the lines are all kind of the same size to a degree. Of course there's line weight to a degree as well, but it's more simple. He leaves a lot of the complexity to the shadows, right? But this one, so of course there's marks, but he keeps them all kind of thin, I guess would be a way to say it. Thin. So these thin lines do work really well with these heavy blacks, right? Like right here, right? And what you see right here, he's using a thicker line. That's probably to pop it out from Hellboy's chest a little bit more. Let's look at the line work of Jim Lee. All right. Of course, I've kind of got two different styles in a way of Jim Lee right here. This one I'd say he definitely more of like ink washed, painted. Oh no, I'm tripping. They're about the same, really. This one's actually more different. This one's more cross hatchy. Right, more of these hatch lines. You can see them right here. Boom, boom. And then he'll build it up. I didn't want that line to go there. Build it up around this form. Right. Kind of like that. But leaving a darker line right here to pop that out. He does it a lot in these little wrinkles. What his big black shapes, there's not a lot of like abstractness in here. Of course there's these rain coming down, so that does help break it up. And then what here, if you don't know how he works, a lot of stuff is traditional. Of course it's all usually ink wash, but he'll also use whiteout. So that's how we got all these little splatters, is just get some whiteout, probably held his hand over the head. And all right, so my camera did die. We're just gonna run out these last couple minutes here. I was talking about the ink splatters, wasn't I? Yeah, I've used that a little bit too. It's very fun using this whiteout. If you do work traditional with ink, I would suggest having a couple different bottles. Some come with like a brush, some come with this little like chisel thing. But regardless, you can do cool stuff like this. Okay, let's refresh. So, bold shapes, feathering of round shapes, breaking long lines, abstract mark making in specific areas, painting with negative. Does that really help us? Does it all help us? I think to a degree it does, right? It helps me understand a little bit of what's going on, right? Especially just thinking of bold shapes, right? I guess the one thing I've kind of ignored talking about this whole time is lighting. So we could talk about that just for super quick, right? All right, let me get these layers. Okay. So, of course, lighting is supposed to tell us where to put these shapes, right? So you could say the light is coming from up here somewhere, right? It's radiating down. So that's why the shadows are all on this side, right? Pretty simple. Yeah, that's a pretty simple way to think about it right there. Here, right, same degree. What, since you guys are technically the same light, I guess it would be more up here, right? but maybe it's more our view going in. But then with these shadows, it does look like it's a little bit more over here. I think over there. I think this one makes the most sense, at least for Hellboy. Yeah. Okay. Looking at Jock here, the lighting suggests either from above, right, directly above, or slightly up front, right, because these areas are lit up. Yeah, because what, all these shadows are right here. You could say that's a shadow, right? You could say all of this is shadow, under here is shadow. So yeah, it's kind of coming from the top to a degree. He's playing with it a little bit. Alright, because look at the head. Alright, there would probably be a little bit stronger shadow here, but if you put that there, would that mess with the nose? So maybe it's staying true to the lighting unless it hurts the drawing. Right, which is something a professor or a teacher would be like, oh, hell no, don't do that. But you can see it's true, right? There's a lot of these ideas of fundamentals that we have to change a little to make good images. All right, so what for Jung Gi's, the way he lit it, right? The way these are bouncing. Right, it's coming from above. But if it's coming from above, you know, why would that be lit up? It's to help it stand out right here, right? Because again, you want to make your drawing, your image, as clean, as cool looking as possible. And sometimes you got to break these fundamentals. I can show you more about some people that I know break fundamentals a little bit later. This is, for this 3-part series, I'm just focused on using strong shadows, strong black shadows. I'm still trying to figure out lighting, right? I've never really been that great at figuring out exactly what direction the light source is coming from, because again, sometimes artists will manipulate it for effect, right? I mean, this one's pretty clear. You could say primary light source from there, right? This is rim light. He could have left this whole fabric in black like the rest of the area, but then it wouldn't be there, right? You'd barely see it. So he didn't put it black, which is cool. What, same thing right here, right? I mean, this is saying it's coming out a little bit more. But yeah, I'm looking at a lot of this stuff in it. Looking at the professionals kind of breaks my brain a little bit. Every time I do a study like this, it really opens me up. I would suggest doing this in your, you know, when you got some free time, or when you're feeling stuck, feel like you've kind of reached a level and you don't know how to break through the next barrier. Do something like this, right? I have an idea of what a specific thing I want to get better at, right? Using black these strong shadows. Sorry, I was tracing that. Got a little sidetracked. But using the strong shadows. And that's what I'm deciding I want to focus on for the next 2 weeks. So if you've made it this far and you're an artist, perhaps you do something like this with me. I'm not going to tell you the specific dates for my deadlines, because the video is not coming out the same day I'm recording. It's not. It'll come out a couple days after. But I am going to personally hold myself to my own deadline of 2 weeks, and what I'm going to do, you'll see in the next video. I'll talk more about that in the next video. All right, y'all. Well, I'm out of here. Hope y'all have a good night, good day, whatever time it is for you. Peace.